Hello, everyone. Welcome. So happy to have you with us today. Today, we are in webinar format, which means that we cannot see you, but you can see us. But we are always happy to have you all here with us today. Feel free to say hello in the chat. I have the chat turned on now for everyone. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know how you're doing today. And if you're watching the recording, we're so grateful that you're sharing this space with us today for our executive sessions. My name is Jenny Wiley. I'm the Director of Programming with Active Choices, Inc. And we get to run amazing programs through the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative. I'm joined today by the CEO of Active Choices, Inc., Anese Cavanaugh, my partner in our webinar today. And I'm so happy to have you here with me, Anese.
Yeah, Jenny, I'm always so excited to do these with you. I love these little conversations we get to have every month. I love our conversations, no matter what format. And it's so fun to, it's whether we're in a very intimate room with 4 to 8 to 10 people, or we're doing these where we may have many, many more people joining. I kind of feel like whatever we do, it's the perfect combination. So thank you for setting it up so beautifully. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess I'll just also add that our main intent with these spaces is to just provide a space for you all as leaders, as culture advocates, as people who want to create amazing positive energy workplaces, for us all to be coming together and sharing our insights and strategies and different ways that we are viewing things as culture strategists around leadership development and creating amazing workplaces together. So we're sharing our expertise here today, but we know that there's so many amazing people and leaders out there who are also doing incredible things. So we love hearing from you when you're able to.
We do. We adore it. And, one of the things, Jenny and I are very organic with the way we do these conversations. We always have our little timeline of things that we want to make sure we get in, and we've got some good data for you today and everything. But one of the things that I have been really aware of recently is this whole idea around what does it take to create a positive energy workplace, and what actually is that? Because it's so interesting when we talk to people in the world. Years ago, we started the IEP methodology, and people were kind of like, wait, what's IEP? And they weren't necessarily ready for it. And so we went, okay, well, what is it we're actually creating through IEP? Well, we're creating authentically positive energy workplaces. So it's been really funny because in the last year, we've been really focusing on positive energy workplaces. And now people are like, no, we just want IEP.
Yeah.
So I actually want, I know we didn't have this on the agenda, but I just want to reference it because it came up yesterday in a conversation with this idea of, well, okay, great. I just want the IEP work. I don't need a positive energy workplace. There's really no difference. So the whole point of a positive energy workplace is it's not about being rah-rah and fake positivity and toxic positivity and pretending that everything's great. And, a lot of people would hear Positive Energy Workplace Initiative and they would think, oh yeah, we're all going to come to the table. We're going to be like this.
Turn on the positivity, right?
Turn on the positivity. Yeah, right, Jenny? Like turn on the positivity. I'm a leader, so I better show up. I better make
Raise
sure
your energy. Yeah.
right. I better make sure I'm showing up as positive. And it's just so not about that. So it's really about creating a workplace and a leadership team and a culture and results and relationships with your clients that open up and create more positive and expansive collaborative energy in a really authentic way, so that when your people are working in your organization, when you're working with your leadership team, when you're working with your clients, you're feeling that expansive energy versus contraction of fake positivity or forcing things to happen, or burning your people out. So that's it. It's not this big. I mean, we have our 7 principles of what we think are, make up a positive energy workplace. But really, at the end of the day, it's just looking at, are you creating the kind of workforce and experience in anything that you're doing that feels good and expansive?
Right.
Or are you creating something that's like rigid and it should be, and it's burning people out and whatnot? And the IEP methodology is the way that we help people get there. So thank you for that extra little, I know that was an extra nugget,
That's great.
it's important.
Yeah. And for those of you who are joining us today, just to give a little overview of what we are going to be talking about, Anese is already alluding to what we're doing as a company through the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative and with the IEP methodology, our proprietary methodology. But really, what we're getting into today is more around what is the cost associated with misaligned energy. And as Anese is saying, misaligned energy can look like a lot of different things. And so we want to talk a little bit more about that, maybe uncover a couple blind spots that you may be too close to in order to see right now. And so we have the benefit of having that 30,000 foot view that we want to share with you all, and some success stories that we've experienced with our clients, so that you can begin to vision the possibilities of what this could look like. So Anese, I want to keep this super brief, but we have lots of different resources on our website, activechoices.com, but let's give just a quick overview of, the approach that we use with the IEP methodology and the types of industries that we have served before through it.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So the thing with the IEP methodology, Jenny, you said something so important, the cost of misaligned energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of the IEP methodology is really truly to help leaders and organizations get their energy so much in alignment that the intentions they have for creating impact on people, for creating results, for creating excellent customer service, for creating revenue, like that's revenue,
Right.
but their intentions are then more easy to create and make real in the world because their energy is in alignment and their presence is in alignment. And so, just real quick for anybody watching this right now, when we talk about the cost of misaligned energy, Jenny and I we can give you some examples of that, but I want to invite you as a leader right now, just as a leader, to think about your own energetic system, your own system internally, and what it feels like for you when your energy is not aligned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's a really valuable, powerful place to start. That, we work with organizations and businesses and stuff and leaders, but I think anybody watching this, if you can tap into what does it feel like when your energy is out of alignment. So you're saying that you want to do something, but your energy is not present. It's not grounded. It's not clear. It's frenetic. You're going against your core values. You're going against stuff like that's misaligned energy. So think about misaligned energy and trying to create your purpose in the world, trying to create results in the world, trying to have an honest conversation with somebody. If your energy is out of alignment, like right there, you have a problem from the get-go. So now we can take this a little bit more in, and as you said briefly, Jenny, it's like if you look at IEP, your IEP stands for your intentional energetic presence. It's your intentions, your energy, and your presence that you have in the world in order to create what you want to create. We look at it in terms of how we show up for ourselves is directly proportional to how much we can show up for another human being. And one of the things that I have really been digging into with some of our our most high-end executives who are really into this and really wanting to create change in the world is one of the things we keep unfolding or unpacking is if your intentions are really clean and clear and you're tending to them and you're being responsible for them, then your energy actually automatically starts to follow those intentions and you have more command. You can have more command with that energy and your presence so that you can actually manifest what you're trying to create in the world. Mm-hmm. So the three things have to go together. We have, it's a very simple model, but, obviously there's 7, I think we've got last week counted, there's about 70 different pathways we give people depending on what their challenges or what they're trying to create with their companies or their industry. And then we just have them follow the model. So it's really simple. What's your intention? What's your energy? What's your presence? There's an actual leadership methodology that goes with it. We're not going to go into that today. You guys can find a ton on our website, but it's a different approach from other leadership development and cultural change initiatives in that we really are not messing around, in that we're going to the source of who are you as an organization? Who are you as a leader? What is your intention? What's the energy you're bringing? What's your presence? And is it actually effective? And if it's not, you're sunk. If it's not, you're going to be playing whack-a-mole forever. So we're kind of not into whack-a-mole. And so that's why we take a very strategic approach to all of this.
Yeah, Absolutely. And something that stands out for me when we talk about this is, kind of what you're alluding to with the whack-a-mole. A lot of times organizations try to approach things from kind of an outside in perspective by implementing new initiatives, doing new skills-based learning and development programs. And the issue with that is that you're trying to apply skills to misaligned energy that's
Yes.
happening within your workforce. And so that really is the heart of what we're talking about today. What is the cost of not taking an inside out approach
Yeah.
with your culture development and your leadership development strategies?
Yeah.
Because if you continue to try to apply skills on top of burnout, miscommunications, frustrations that are not properly processed, all of those different things, it's going to continue to drain resources
Yeah.
and energy, and your retention rates are going to go down, and just the level of well-being
Yeah.
that your workforce experiences at your company is going to continue to go down.
Yeah, it's so I love it that you just took us into that space right now because it's like if you think about like real time, real examples, and
Right.
we'll go to the data slide after this, but you know, um, just think about this. I don't think there's a company that we've ever met that has not invested in training and leadership development and communication training, feedback training, and whatnot. And what happens is the training may be excellent. Like there's so much good stuff out there. There are so many excellent coaches and facilitators and
Right.
practitioners, and I mean, so many beautiful bodies of work. I am so grateful for all of these things. And what'll happen is a company will bring a body of work in. They'll do an implementation throughout the company, be like, we're going to do this program, XYZ program. And then everybody goes and they spend a ton of time and money on it and leadership trust and credibility because they're bringing this thing in. And then people go and they learn the skills and they're like, great, I got my new feedback model. I got my new communication model. And then they go and they're doing the skills to each other, but the IEP is not right. The
Mm-hmm.
level of intentions, energy, and presence, the energy they bring to those skills, the intentionality that they bring to those skills, it's not in alignment. And so therefore, at best, the company doesn't get their return on investment from the training programs. And at worst, it's actually those training programs and the tools start to get used as they
Right.
start to get weaponized. They start to get
Right.
used as a bat. So that's one of the things that we've really seen, and we've got some data we can show you around it. But that's one of the things we've really seen where when companies are stuck and they're like, we don't understand why we're not getting the return on investment we want from this, or we just did this thing and actually it's working against us. It's usually the IEP. 9 times out of 10, it has something to do with the IEP. Other things to be looking at, I just had the privilege of being down with an executive team recently with an organization we're doing work with. And it was so cool to see how when the executive team and the leaders in that room started to get really aligned on their intentions, their energy, and their presence and how they were showing up, how that opened up so much more space to have honest conversations, to create really good agreements, and ultimately to, in the long run, save them a lot of money and energy on focusing on the right things. And so if you've got, to Jenny's point, if you've got misaligned energy and unintentional energy and presence, if you've got this going on, then what's happening is you're leaking energy of your workforce. It's getting distributed out in non-productive ways and potentially even toxic ways. And so therefore, you're not going to have the return on investment for anything that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, then, to your point, Jenny, we start leading into burnout. Because to me, the burnout piece, it's yes, burnout comes from working a lot, the emotional lift that we're all dealing with, like absolutely. Burnout is, burnout's burnout. But to me, when I take a look at this from an IEP standpoint, so often burnout comes from not being clear about your intentions and being responsible for the energy you're putting out into the world. So anyway, yeah, those
Great.
are some of I just want to make those even realer as I look at our list. Innovation, you've got innovation, creativity here. This is just a really simple one too. You think about being in a design room with your people, or forget design, just innovating. Like if you're in business, you're in innovation.
Yeah.
So everyone goes, we're not in innovation. Yes, you are an innovation.
Growing or dying.
I
Yes.
hope to
Right.
God you're an innovation. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
if you're like, whatever your company is, I hope you're an innovation, because if you are growing, you're innovating.
Mhm.
Um, and your level of ability to innovate is going to be directly related to how much you can actually grow. So just think about, that kind of space where you're coming together to think about, how are we going to get out of this pickle? We're generally, companies are dealing with workforce issues or, revenue issues, right? Like there's this dance always happening of like people and then revenue and business development. Well, if you're coming together as a team and you're not actually, in the space where you have full permission for risk taking, and people are being present, and really tapping into that extra level of creativity, then you're operating right here.
Mhm.
So we want to make sure the IEP is right, so that your innovation and the creativity of your workforce is unleashed, and then you can do all the good stuff. So yeah, anything I missed on that one, Jenny? I think we did a pretty good job covering those.
No, I think that was great. And let's go ahead and show the slides that we have around the performance and financial cost
Yeah.
of that misaligned energy. We have some data infographic slides that we pulled from recent
Okay.
data that just shows what the cost actually is. And I'll let Anese speak to it here.
Yeah, this is one of our favorite slides. This is if you've been on these before, you may have seen this in the past, but it's just, this was in 2024, $1.9 trillion per year in US companies due to lost productivity from workplace unhappiness. That is absolutely addressable. 7.47 hours per week per business leader due to poor communication costs in US companies. That was from Grammarly in 2022. And this one checks. Like we watch this with our people, and how much time gets lost in rework and miscommunication and wasting time. George does something and it didn't feel good to me, so I go tell Jenny that George did this thing, and like now we're not being responsible for our energy. We're not being responsible for the way that we're working and communicating. And so therefore we've just lost basically 7.5 hours, excuse me, in a week, which is a lot.
Yeah.
69% of workers report that their manager has as much impact on their mental health as their spouse or partner, which to me is really, it warrants that extra level of care and intention around, okay, how am I as a leader showing up with my workforce? How am I showing up with my workforce? How am I showing up with my executive team? Am I being a space for them to actually feel safe, focus on the right things, do their right work, feel cared about, and be inspired? Like your people are going home at night, and your level of intentional, energetic presence is having a huge impact on how good they feel about their job.
Yeah.
So, and then this last one down here, 52% of those who exit their job report the company could have done something to have kept them there. But unfortunately, related to that, only 1 out of 3 of those employees actually say anything to their leaders before they leave. So that is a major regrettable loss that is absolutely preventable if you open up the space for responsible conversations and responsible communication and psychological safety, which again is going to come back to the IEP of the leaders and your workforce. So that's one. Anything else you want to add on this one, Jenny?
No, these are all great. And I think it really speaks to not only the performance and financial cost, but the overall cost to your workplace culture. I mean, these are numbers, but think about the actual people that are being affected through
Yeah.
these numbers.
Yeah.
The people who are not feeling recognized, who feel like they can't speak up, who feel like they're being so impacted by their managers that it's affecting their outside of work lives.
Right.
There are people within these numbers that there's no way that this cannot be affecting the culture of
Yeah.
your workforce.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And the other thing that occurs to me as I'm hearing you is, we think about when companies come to us, they're often looking at, okay, well, our training program isn't working. We don't know why, or we have a lot of tension on our leadership team, or we can't figure out why aren't people taking accountability for their work?
Right.
And when we drill it down, like that all of those problems are in these numbers here. But when we drill it down, if you look at any issue you're having right now, where you're like, this is not working in the organization, why is that? Invitation to take a step back and go, all right, let's look at the people that are involved in that. Let's look at the leaders who are leading those people. Let's look at our organizational structures and frameworks that are creating that kind of a dynamic.
Mhm.
And if you give yourself the opportunity to pause and take a step back and really to look at, okay, what's actually going on? And then what is it actually costing us? Financial, performance, cultural, impact, innovation. If you can pause and take a step back, you're going to find some gold. You're going to find some gold. And that's something that, we do these calls to let you guys know about what we're up to, but also we're happy to have a conversation with you to get really curious and kind of look and backtrack. Okay, well, what is actually happening? What is the cost for you?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that you're bringing that up too, because that's one of my favorite things about co-creating with our prospective partners is setting up that formula with them to get a really true baseline of what's the actual cost
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
creating by not addressing this.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so juicy too, because I'm just thinking about like some recent, we've launched four companies this year in the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative. And I'm just thinking with almost every single one of them, the ones that chose to do the diagnostic that we do,
Mm-hmm.
what the problem was is never the problem. The problem is never the problem. The problem is never the problem. So the companies that said, yeah, we want to go all in on this and really like do this right and build this strategically and like really see what's happening, what the cost is, they did the diagnostic. And the diagnostic, our diagnostics about, depending on the company, what's going on, it's anywhere from 45 to 60 questions. And in every single case, what they thought was going on and how they thought the workforce was doing and how they thought their executive leadership team was doing is not what was actually happening. And so it's so juicy when we can get in there and look at that and then go, okay, here's what's happening. So let's look at the cost of that. Now, what do we want to do about it? Change can happen very, 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 very quickly. So actually, let's jump to some of the reported. Should
Yeah,
we jump to
that's
the
great.
numbers? Like
Yeah,
we've
let's
got
do it.
this one right here, which, just really quick, I'll just show you like this big number, 37%. This is an example of the humans in your workforce that are saying above anything else, they want to be seen. They want to know they matter. They want to know people care about them above anything else. And if you look at these other things, this is what most companies think. Oh, well, we need to pay our people more. We need to give them more training. We need to promote them. Oh, we need to inspire them. We're going to inspire them. Yes, we're going to give them autonomy. We're going to motivate them. Yes, wonderful. Please do. And at the end of the day, what people are saying, and this is not just your employees, this is also your executives.
Mhm.
This is also your board, by the way. They're saying, no, I need to know that I matter. I need to know that I'm being seen. I need to know that I'm a part of something that's bigger than me. So I just always like to show this.
Actually, I want to add to this really quick
Yeah,
too,
good.
because like, again, we're in a situation where we're looking at this from a high level view, and it's showing here that the most important thing to those of these people who are surveyed is that they just want to be recognized. Recognition shows up in so many different ways. It shows up in having your email replied to by your manager. It shows up in, receiving some sort of recognition of, the job that you did and the project that you completed, recognizing that things are hard and we're going to get through it together.
Yeah.
Recognition comes up in so many ways. So it's funny because I know that there are also engagement campaigns that companies will do and recognition campaigns and gifts and things like that, and it's so much more than that. It's in these little tiny situational interactions that
Mhm.
creates a compounding effect
Mhm.
that is so simple, but can often be feeling like it's unmanageable because of the culture that's created. So I just wanted to add that.
It's so important. I mean, it just brings me back to, Jenny, you've been with us for almost 2 years now. And I just think
Mhm.
about, we've had quarters where we've like had really, really great quarters and we've been able to do more fun bells and whistles, stuff for our team. And then we've had quarters where we've been like, oh, and, and what I have noticed we have done with us is our team has just doubled down on making sure that we're being as present as possible and as
Yeah.
intentional in that recognition part. And the recognition does not mean here's a humongous bonus and all these presents and these bells and these whistles and the recognition is, hey, you matter. You're doing great work. Let's talk about what's happening. Oh gosh, we didn't have like this quarter was a little bit harder. Like, let's talk about that. Oh gosh, this stuff's happening in the world right now. Let's talk about that. Oh gosh, Jenny, you just biked across Kansas. For God's sake, you biked across Kansas. And like, I'm not giving our team a pat on the back, but I know that the container that we were holding as you were biking across Kansas and watching your stuff, and like, that feels important to me. I know for myself, I do, it's a really, I have pull-ups on Mondays.
We
Team,
love hearing about the pull-ups.
yeah, my pull-ups, like pull-ups are really, I was really intimidated by pull-ups. So I've been learning how to do my pull-ups, and so it's just like little things like that, which sounds so silly, but you can't do those things if you're not present and really thinking about the human aspect of work and thinking about the intentions, energy, and presence you're bringing to everything you do.
Yeah.
And, so I just, there's big forms of recognitions, there's little forms of recognitions, but really to me, when I look at this slide, it's like, how are you doing at being present with your people and being a space for your people and your executive team to just see each other, if even for 30 seconds, for 5 minutes, to just spend that 5 minutes. And then of course there's many other ways you can address it, but let's just look at some of our numbers. So we adore it when our people start to really talk about the real numbers and what's actually happening. And so we Jenny and I just kind of put our heads together before this and brainstorm some of the numbers we've been hearing lately. And I'm not going to go deeply into all these, but I'm just going to throw you some tangible numbers that are from real clients and case studies, and also workshopping of numbers. Before I do this, I will just say that if you are a company and you're like, oh, we really want to figure out what this would be worth to us and what is it costing us, we have a very lovely little formula that we use. So we don't share publicly because it's part of our proprietary formula behind the scenes. But if you are interested in that, reach out and let's set up a call and we can kind of play around with some of those numbers. But here's some examples. So let's see. Where am I? There she goes. Okay. So here's one. This was a company that went through something humongous, and they were able to track and figure out that because their executive team was doing, and actually it wasn't even the entire executive team, it was just a couple, were practicing their IEP. They were able to let's see, did they save or make? I'm always really protective of like sharing our client stories, but let's just say they saved $30 million because of the way that a couple of their executives showed up in a specific situation. Here was one. This was a sales deal that I actually went out of the country to help a company close, and I worked with their leadership, their sales team, before they went in to close something, and they increased the close by $10.8 million because they were so aligned in their intentions, their energy, and their presence, and how they were going to show up with that particular client. So half a day of really digging into what is going on. How are we aligned as a sales team? Oh man, we've got some tension over here, and breaking that up a half a day, increasing a close by $10.8 million. I mean, I don't know, that's worth a half a day of my life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So there was one. Let's see. We had a team they were a team of 8, and they said they reported that they saved 7 hours a week because they started to really implement the IEP methodology into their into their weeks and into their meetings specifically. So the agreement they created agreements, they used the IEP methodology, used their 5-step framework, and that ended up cutting back an 7 hours per person for the week for a team of 8. So we figured out that they saved about 56 hours a week. So I don't know, that's kind of great. We had another organization we did this work with. We brought it in and we did it with 200 of their training and talent professionals. And one of their problems was they had been investing all this money into, Six Sigma and leadership development and feedback and communication. They're like, we can't quite get, like, it's not working. In fact, In fact, I think I don't have the number right in front of me right now, but I think it's $2,200 a year is the average spend that companies do on learning and development and cultural initiatives per
Per
person.
person, yeah.
Per person. And only 30% of CHROs report that there's a positive return on investment. So this right here, once they had gone through the IEP work and they got that foundation, they said, oh my gosh, this actually is amplifying and unlocking the return on investment of all the programs we've been doing in the past. So that was really fun. 9.53, this is a more recent thing. This is an organization that we're doing work with, and their executive team actually came to this together using our formula of going, okay, if we even do this, and this ripples throughout the organization, this is a $9.53 million savings for us. And I think that's really conservative, because that's not actually looking at the lost opportunity costs, what's going to happen because their workforce is showing up better with clients, what's going to happen because their workforce and their leadership team is better at negotiating deals and sales and whatnot. And so that was really fun. I'll move faster through these. This one, do you remember this one, Jenny? This was one we just did recently, the executive forum, and we had the leaders come in and actually workshop.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
This one. They were actually workshopping just a recent, I think it was it a recent month or a recent week where
I think it was a week. Yeah.
how much time, look at your workforce, use our formula. How much money did you lose dealing with this, and this? And so there were just some three numbers I pulled off that list. We have a really fun, some collaborators who they were able to 4x their workforce, 4x their revenue, 7x their profit, and then sell to private equity. And when the private equity firm acquired them, they said that they were the healthiest leadership team and culture they'd ever acquired. And not only that, they were supposed to stay on, the founder and the CEO, the executive team was supposed to stay on, and I'm sorry, the CHRO and the CEO were supposed to stay on for 6 months to help make sure that the culture stuck. And the private equity firm called them in and said, after 3 weeks, you guys are free, like go for it, because you've created a sustainable enough culture that we can continue to keep this because it's embedded. And they attribute a lot of that to their use of the IEP work and the leadership mindset that they had. 260K. This was a company that was about to hire an executive on their team, like a senior level executive, and they used the IEP method and some of our resources around hiring and how do you think about hiring and the interview and questions to ask that are very nuanced, but that are going to point to what I call the post-it, which is going to show you what the challenge is going to be with that person from an IEP standpoint very, very quickly. So they decided not to do that, and then later reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, we just saved $260,000 because what you saw and what these questions showed us actually just showed up with that person, and we dodged a pickle.
Yeah. Yeah.
They dodged a bullet. We dodged a pickle or whatever. All right. And then this one was really fun. This was also from that forum that we did, the roundtable, where that one leader said, oh my gosh, for as much money as we lost with this last year in not activating our IP and being really responsible at this, we could have literally gotten an admin for everyone on our leadership team this year. So those are just some fun real-time things. And it's funny because we didn't used to do this. For those of you that have been following this work for a while, we're really quiet about like the numbers because we want to keep people focused on their energy and their intentions and like the soft stuff, quote unquote. But what we're finding is that so often, in order to really help get this to the people that need it the most, it's really important to show this kind of stuff. So Jenny, is there anything you want to add to this?
No, this is great. This is, I think it's a great celebration also for these companies, because these pathways are going to look, even though the core of the IEP methodology is always going to be staying the same, the manifestation of it and the pathways that, our client partners are going to start to find themselves on are all going to be a little bit different, because every organization is a little bit different. So it's always nice to see all those.
So it's so true. I'm so grateful you just brought that up. I mean, the other thing that occurs to me is how it's an act of courage to bring this work in. This group that I was with recently, that we went to dinner afterwards, and they were like, this is some like different ways of thinking about business. This is a different way of thinking about leadership. And it's a little vulnerable too. It's a little
Mhm.
bit vulnerable because you're looking at things like intentions, energy, presence.
Right.
We can absolutely make it very tangible, but there is a quality of leaders that bring this work in the easiest. There's a level of courage that they have. There is a level of like innovation, like, oh, we really want to do something different because we know that in order for us to build a strong future of work and to really build the strongest organizations possible, we gotta be willing to get out of our comfort zone. So I want to acknowledge all of the companies that we just showed too for their courage,
Yeah.
their uh, their trust to lean into something that is not traditional in organizational work. So
Hmm. Yeah. And for the most part, it's been organization wide, or started out in a phased approach where it started with a leadership team or a department and then was able to scale from there.
yeah, that's so true. Yeah, it's so funny because we've this work has been running for a long time, and we really we think of ourselves as a startup almost over the last 4 years, because 4 years ago we said, all right, let's scale this puppy, because before it was me running around with like a lunatic, getting into as many rooms as I could to get this going. And now we've got this beautiful platform, and we have an app, and we have Jenny, we have faculty, we have all this stuff. And so we really have designed it so that there are best practices. A best practices, an executive leader gets a hold of this work, gets excited about it, it resonates, they bring the work in for their leadership team. Their leadership team goes, oh my gosh, we got to get this to the rest of our people. And then we can cascade it, ripple it, whatever you want to call it, down. And so we've got that, but then we also have the ability where if a team is like, okay, we really want this work for ourselves,
Hmm.
we're not going to be able to get sponsorship at that level, and we don't actually have the budget for that kind of thing, they can just come in through the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative, and they can start doing it with their team. So I
Yeah.
feel really grateful that we now have created a container as a company on our end to support people wherever they're at,
Hmm.
to get in and to start to do this work at whatever level they want to do it at. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Jenny, you want to talk about the next thing?
Yeah, and I'll just add to that you shared, Anese, that if you are interested in seeing a really nice overview of the different ways that we do provide our trainings and program offerings, there's a great one on our blog that's actually one of the most recent ones that says new to ACI, and you'll be able to dig into that and see a little bit more about what that entails. So with we're going to start to close down some of our conversation around this, but with this intention of helping to bring awareness around this cost that can start to accumulate because of misaligned energy, we want to bring into focus some potential blind spots to consider. These are things that come up just based on the different partners that we work with. It comes from our industry insights. We are always looking at different data. We're always digging into things. We have the benefit of a lot of cross-sectional clients. So we see across a lot of different industries. We see a lot across a lot of different, workforce sizes, and we get to look at those trends from our point of view. So we just want to share some of those things that we've noticed on our end. The first one that I'll share is just this disparity between measuring the engagement of the people in your workforce and neglecting to look at the energy of the people in your workforce. So the latest State of the Global Workplace report just came out this past week from Gallup, the 2024 report. And so our team is digging into this a little bit more. And there's a lot of really interesting findings around this. It's the largest employee experience study, largest ongoing employee experience study. And so the focus for this year is really about how employees feel about their work and how that interacts with their lives, because there's a huge predictor around the resilience and performance of an organization based on how the employees feel. So we're in a really cool, revolutionary time where the employee experience is more important than ever. And so, with this study, they're noting that there's a connection between an employee's engagement with their role and with the company and their ability to adapt to just normal, quote unquote, life experiences. So for somebody who is engaged in their work, when they experience something negative like stress, anger, worry, sadness, loneliness, they have higher levels of adaptability to those things. And as we all know, I mean, we're all human, we all experience these things. When you do experience those stressful situations, it's not like we're compartmentalizing it. It affects other parts of our lives, right? So it makes sense that we're measuring these types of things. And then on the other side of that, if somebody is more engaged in their role at work, what they're finding is that there is a correlation between their ability to be able to adapt to those things. So when they're actively disengaged, this was super interesting to me. When they're showing as actively disengaged, it is the equivalent or worse than being unemployed.
Ooh.
In the way that they are able to adapt to those stressful situations.
Yeah.
So it was super interesting. So they're measuring engagement. They're looking at engagement. It's a super important thing. So the blind spot here potentially is that when we're measuring engagement, we're measuring the after effects in a company. We're measuring the lagging indicators for a company. So if a company is measuring the engagement in their culture, they're looking at something that has already passed. And so what we're proposing through the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative and everything that we're doing with the inside out approach, managing your energy, becoming more aware of it, building healthy habits to improve your personal and professional development. This is an inside out approach, and the energy is actually the leading indicator that more companies should be measuring. Because when you're measuring the effectiveness of the energy, the alignment of it, whether it is, productive or unproductive, those are going to impact your engagement scores. And engagement in itself, if you're measuring engagement, it's not just a bar that you jump over, like we are engaged now. There's a quality. There's a quality of engagement. It's so much. I'm really passionate about this because I've been a community leader for a really long time. And if you're only looking at data of clicks, likes, if you're only looking at that quantitative data, you're missing a huge part of the picture of the qualitative data. And so that's what we're proposing here, is adding in more measurement of those leading indicators by looking at the energy of your culture. And then you're measuring the engagement and seeing what is the quality output, what changes with that. So there's my little soapbox. We're digging into the Gallup report even more. And so I'm sure I'll have more thoughts on this, but that was one main thing that stuck out to me.
I love your soapboxes. I love it. And you're such a perfect, my heart feels so grateful right now and so full because you're such a perfect community leader for the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative. Like it's such a beautiful, like angels were singing when you came. No, because of the way that you hold engagement, because of the way that you hold that. The other thing that I think is really important here that you're talking about is, energy is, you want to be measuring that and looking at that and tracking that. But it's so cool because energy, you can change like this.
Yeah.
You can see it in a room. I see it all the time. I see it all the time when I go in and I give a session, or I give a keynote, or I'm in a room with an intimate session, and the energy may be like, well, we have control over how we manage our energy. And what we find in this work is 70% of it is awareness. So the minute I have awareness that my energy is really low, the other 30% is actually where the hard work comes in. But often it's that 70% awareness that's really tricky for people because they're just in such react mode. They're not being intentional. So they're reacting and reacting. And so, you just think about, you go into a room, you go into even a one-on-one conversation. If the energy's not feeling good, you can shift it in the moment. If you have the tools and the awareness to do it really intentionally and be responsible with it, because with that well-being of the employees, we're talking about, employees, their ability to cope and self-manage, and that point, Jenny, about actively disengaged being even more damaging than unemployed. I hear that. And then I also hear the impact on the other people around them. Like an actively disengaged
Absolutely.
person in your workplace. Oh my gosh. Talk about energy management. Now your people around them are having to manage their own energy to not get sucked into that lower vibration.
Yes.
Um, and then it makes it even more important then that you're giving your employees and your leadership the tools to be responsible with the energy they're bringing into the workforce, to be responsible to not only be intentional about the energy they're projecting and the experience they're creating for each other, but then also to protect themselves from energy that might be coming at them that is disengaged, actively disengaged and negative. And so this is another place where the IEP methodology comes in of like, all right, we're gonna look at how we're showing it for ourselves, and we're gonna look at also how we're showing it for each other, and how do we be really, really responsible for that. And this is not just a quick, oh, that sounds really good. Let's just manage our energy and let's just be like, that's why I said at the beginning of the session, that's toxic positivity. It's not actually responsible ways of activating and managing the energy in the workforce. So I love the soapbox, and I just invitation to anybody to start playing with this of like, if you're noticing that the energy is not where you want it to be, what needs to shift in it? And
Mhm.
it starts with you, because I can't change everybody else's energy. The only way I'm going to change anybody's energy is by changing my energy first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty great. It's pretty fun. It's a lot. We have a lot of power there. We just have to step into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking
Mhm.
of power, I know there was a
Yes.
blind spot that you wanted to kind of just dig into a little bit
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
this session.
Yeah. I kind of started to speak about it a little bit earlier today, but it's just like, it's just the power that each of us have. It's just the exquisite power that each of us have to come into a room or into a one-on-one conversation or virtual room or into our lives, period, into our kitchens, with us in our own power around our intentional energetic presence. When we're in our own energy and presence, when we're clear about our intention, when we're present, when I'm not like distracted by everybody else's energy and trying to change everything around me, and I really hold that as a leader, that right there is enough to start to create a ripple effect in my one-on-one relationships, in my leadership team, in my organization. But what we have done and what we tend to do as a culture, one, because we get really busy, we get in our heads, we try and control. I get it. But what we've done is we've taken that outside-in approach, trying to change everything around us first. And really, the only way it changes is it has to start here and go out. And so if you are an executive, it doesn't matter what your role is. This applies to everybody, but especially if you are leading other people,
Yeah.
the power that you have in a room to shift the space based upon how you actually show up and how you hold your energy, how you hold your energetic field, the power you have for that, it's remarkable. And it is probably not going to the way that you think you're going to have impact is not actually probably the way you're going to have impact,
Mhm.
right? Because we think as leaders, okay, well, I'm going to have impact because I'm going to go do an executive presence course and I'm going to learn how to do feedback and I'm going to learn how to do a strategy and I'm going to learn how to, like lead my team. Yes, please do all of those things. But if your energetic presence and your level of intentionality is not really, really clean when you're doing those things, you're at best missing a huge opportunity. And at worst, you're creating damage. And in the middle, you're playing whack-a-mole. So
Yeah.
I think that's just something that the more this work grows, this is 23 years going on building this work and just being in it and doing my own work around it. And the more what I notice is the more work I do for myself around this and pay attention, the more I see the nuance of this. And so we're thinking about I'm thinking about doing something really special around this last 3 minutes that we just talked about, but an invitation to start looking at that. What do you need to do for yourself as an executive, as a leader, as a human, as a parent, as a teacher, as a anything? What do you need to do for yourself to really get into your own intentional energetic presence and to lead from that place? Because that place, I think, is ultimately the sweet spot we want to get everyone to. But we'll meet you wherever you're at. We'll meet you with the methodology. We'll meet you with 3 steps. We'll meet you with 5 steps. We'll meet you through Gallup. We'll meet you wherever you want. But really, at the end of the day, it's like we got to keep coming back to ourselves and leading with a level of intention that I believe can change the world, like truly.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's that. There's my soapbox.
I love it. It's a beautiful close to our conversation today. And it just speaks to why we're called active choices.
Yeah. It is such an active choice. So true. So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So
Mm.
I'll start to close down our space for today. Anese, thank you for the amazing conversation together. I really love when our minds get to mingle on these sorts of topics. It's really helpful for me, and I hope it's helpful for everyone who's watching this today. If anybody would like to learn more about Active Choices Inc., you can check out our website, activechoices.com. We also have a great previous webinar that we did. It's on our blog. You can learn more about how we partner with leaders and companies. So that link will be accompanied with this video, and I put it in the chat here too. And if you're ready to consider how we might partner together, you can always schedule a connection call with us. Just go to activechoices.com/contact. And if you're just wanting to learn more about the IEP methodology, about the work that we're doing through the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative, about what's inside Anese's mind, you can always read Contagious Culture and/or Contagious You, beautiful books that will give you an amazing primer on how to create an impact in your overall life and your work.
And we're getting ready to get the next one going too. It's really
spoiler
fun.
alert.
It's gonna be different. It's gonna be very different. It's gonna be different. But yeah, definitely grab Contagious Culture, Contagious You for sure.
I love it.
Thanks,
So
Jenny.
for those of you who are watching, think to yourself, what's that next step that I can take to contribute to creating more authentic positivity in my own life and in the culture for my workforce? What's that next step that I want to take? And we'd love to hear from you if you want to continue the conversation. So thanks, Anese. I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Have an awesome rest of your week. Bye-bye.